There you go. Hi, welcome to our session today. It's an open chat session. If you are you're a parent of a child who's getting ready to go to college, we welcome all your questions. Please feel free to type them in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll just talk among ourselves a little bit here about the college application process, all things college related. We welcome your questions. Melissa, you want to?
Sure, yes. So welcome to everyone who will join us. Feel free to just drop in, ask your question, and hop back out if you'd like. But we are here just to provide an informal platform to answer questions, to share some information, in particular, key aspects of the planning and research process for if you're looking to study in the US. So we will talk a little bit about that to get started. We know that the US has many options. There are over 4,000 accredited institutions. And where do you begin when you are trying to make a decision as to which school is the best one for you? Where is it located? How much does it cost? What can you study? Those are all the types of things you want to think about when you're starting that research and planning process. And so utilizing a variety of online resources and tools is a good way to start. But obviously we have fantastic advisors to help you through that process. So you're able to schedule one-on-one appointments with Paula. ASEEL's been facilitating a lot of webinars and information sessions as well. So there is plenty of support for you throughout this process. And so for parents in particular, who might be also trying to navigate the process and unsure of how to support their children, we again are here to help answer some questions and provide some information.
You know, as I was thinking, as we were getting ready for this session, Melissa and ASEEL, I found myself reflecting on being a parent of two children who grew up overseas, who grew up internationally, and then went to study in the United States. And it's a challenging process as a parent to help guide your children, and hopefully that they'll take the lead in that important timeline in getting ready to study in the United States. And that first step, I'm thinking particularly with my daughter in choosing where to study. The United States is a big place, and we actually were fortunate enough to spend a summer kind of traveling from the Midwest to the West Coast and visiting different university campuses. You know, we were fortunate to be able to do that. Now, a lot of students are having the option to do their virtual tours. So many universities offer the virtual option to search for universities. But with my daughter, we started, you know, we had to think about what did she want in a university. And she sort of settled on the idea of a small university. So that's one of the things that you need to consider. In addition, of course, there's cost, the size, the location. Melissa or ASEEL, you want to chime in, and some of the things that we consider when the students are searching for that best fit university. Obviously, the programs offered.
True, and even sometimes like special categories from here, they also tend to go to states where other categories are there, whereas others think, no, it's better to go some other places where they can find different opportunities, different colleges, and different majors that fit them. Yeah. So it's very important for students to think what fits them rather than the place where maybe they might find some other categories. Of course, it's up to them, but we really encourage them to discover and explore and try to find what suits them and their needs. And the other thing that some students are interested in is the weather factor, in fact. Yeah,
Very
so
important.
some students, like we met with one of the Qatari alumni, and he said, okay, I liked it first in Oregon. It was raining all the time, and I liked it because we don't have such type of weather. But then when it kept raining for a very long time, it's kind of a bit difficult thing. So yeah, or let's say the snow. So
Exactly.
it's very important to think of those factors when students think and do select their college or the state where they would like to study. Yeah.
Well, I see we have Lena joining us. Lena, feel free to unmute your microphone and join us in the chat if you would like to ask any questions. We'd love to hear from you.
And one other thing, yes, great, Lena's
Yes.
unmuted. Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure. Go for it.
Hello.
Hi, Lena.
Hi. I had a question concerning satin eyelets. Are they still required due to the current situation and pandemic?
Many schools, many universities and colleges have gone test optional for the SAT. For the IELTS, they think they're still requiring the English language proficiency test scores. So I think you need to check with the college or university that you're applying to see how those requirements have changed.
Okay. And so basically here in Qatar, we have like, if you want to study medicine, you can study medicine only in 6 years. But I know like in the US, you have to do like 4 years of any other sciences and then enroll in a medical school. Are there some universities who have a 6 year program medicine right away after high school?
Melissa, do you want to take that one?
So the Weill Cornell program here in Qatar is unique in that structure that it offers, because you have that pre-medical program that prepares you specifically for the medical program here at Cornell. So the difference there is that that pre-medical program isn't a degree granting program in and of itself. So it's different in the things you will find in the US because you will have a bachelor's program that you're pursuing in a medical related fields and then applying for a medical degree. So there isn't anything that's equivalent to that in the US. That is something that's very special and particular to here in Qatar. Also, the medical program spots in the US are highly, highly competitive. So oftentimes, international students are encouraged to do the actual MD portion, do your preparatory bachelor's field studies in the US, but the actual MD program, you may have a better opportunity outside of the US, and then doing your residencies and all of those experiences upon completion of the MD degree, just because of the capacity issue within the US.
Okay, and what about scholarships? Is it easy to get a scholarship?
So easy is relative. It really does depend. And again, that's part of the research process of looking at which options, because there are some institutions that have much more scholarship funding available for international students. And so some don't offer, some do. And so if that is one of the key criteria, you're going to want to look at the institutions that have historically been able to provide substantial or a good amount of scholarship for international students. So that is one of the search criteria, I would say. In terms of, is it easy? Many of them, if they're merit-based, again, has to do with your performance, your academic background, but there are also institutions that have need-based financial aid. And some of them, you know, well, the ones that are looking at that need base are looking at what family can actually afford, and then they will meet the remainder. So that is also something to factor in. One additional way to think about the financial support as well is it doesn't always come only in the form of a scholarship. So if an institution is able to offer in-state tuition, for example, for international students, then you are getting a reduction in the amount of tuition that you would pay. So while it isn't an outright scholarship that you are necessarily receiving, you are receiving a financial benefit because you're not having to pay the regular tuition, you're being offered an in-state level.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You know, when you were talking about scholarships, you know, the other thing to think about, I mean, besides the tuition or the fee payments, is also the cost of living in that city or in that place. You know, going back to my daughter's, using my daughter as an example, she was accepted into 5 universities across the United States. And then we had to look carefully at what financial assistance she was offered, and then also the cost of living in that area, because you're not only going to have to pay the tuition, you're going to have to pay for housing. And, you know, so you have to sort of weigh what are the best options, what's going to be this best fit, not only academically, but, you know, finances play into it for sure, for sure. She ended up in the Midwest at a small college. And, you know, another thing, you know, that I want to talk about that we've spoken about before, one of the great things about studying in the United States is the flexibility of the programs. That perhaps students start, many freshman students go in with an idea about a major that they're going to pursue. For me, it was biology. Well, I never finished in biology. And for my daughter, she was going to be a theater major. And she shifted completely after the first year. Not only did she change her, what she thought she was going to study, she ended up changing her university. And so one of the things in the United States is that you do have some flexibility. You do have that capacity to change your plan. And, you know, you have to do it carefully though, because you don't want to lose your credits, right, Melissa? You don't want to lose, but there is that flexibility that's available to students. She ended up moving from a small private school to a big state university where she was much happier because it was more diverse than where she started out. And she ended up having a very successful undergraduate experience. But yeah, so.
And that's one of the key things, especially, you know, to really use that beginning year to explore what that major means, what it is that you are pursuing. When I worked with students, you know, I try to bring it back to a very basic level of, don't think of what you want to do as a career profession wise, like to name yourself as, I want to be a business person, or I want to be an accountant, or I want to be a lawyer. You want to think about, what do you want your day-to-day work life to look like? You know, do you want to have a very structured schedule where you go in from one time to a set time, and once you leave, that's it, you're done? Do you want to have a lot of people-to-people interaction? Do you want to have a lot of time crunching numbers or analyzing things or writing? Do you want to do editing of documents and reading? You want to look at, what are the components of your day-to-day work life that you think you would enjoy, and try to do activities that give you exposure to that. Because that will give you a sense of, could I see myself doing this every day for a sustained period of time? I mean, again, we know that the career you start in may not be the career you continue in. People do change and shift, and that's great. But you want to be able to have those transferable skills with you. But you, again, want to think about, what does it mean to be in this profession on a day-to-day basis, and see if that's something you would actually enjoy doing. I mean, I oftentimes share my personal story in that I started my undergraduate degree with a very clear idea that I wanted to be in journalism. And as I was taking my journalism classes, I quickly realized that was definitely not something that I was interested in doing as a profession. You know, you see what they do, and then you see like the real parts of it, and I was like, no, this is not for me. But I was able to adapt quickly and you know, connect with an advisor and talk about, okay, what is it that you do enjoy? I enjoy communicating ideas and thoughts and educating, but I didn't want to be a teacher necessarily. So it's about finding those things you enjoy and then working that into whatever area of study you're going to pursue. And of course, nowadays, there are a lot of, it's more about the critical thinking skills, the reasoning ability, and the actual fields of study is part of that, but you need those other skills to succeed in any job. And so as long as you're able to bring all of those components in, then, you know, I feel like any major you study and complete will be a success. So, yeah.
Sure.
And for anyone on Facebook Live as well, you are, you know, free to type in your questions, and we are happy to address those, or if you have comments or things, feel free. Let's see. Okay. Well, I think one of the things that would be helpful to talk about right now as well is, you know, we're kicking off International Education Week. And there's a lot of programs taking place, not just here for the Qatar audience, but globally. And so this is a great opportunity to really tap in and search for different sessions, especially now that so much is being offered virtually, to explore different themes and topics. We have a lot of great sessions coming up this week. And so we look forward to welcoming more people to those conversations. One great session we'll have that again is more conversational is with a Qatari alum from Syracuse University who will join us with a friend from his studies, and they will share, you know, the experience at the university. They'll be answering questions, and in particular, the experience of being a student ambassador and being able to take on that type of leadership role as an international student. So that's great.
That's one of those things that we want students to consider, not only the academics on the campus when they're looking, exploring those options. What else does the campus offer? Extracurriculars, clubs, what would you like to be involved in, sports-wise? So he, well, we'll see on Wednesday. He'll give us the full story about his involvement as a student ambassador. Yeah. So important, that engagement on campus.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the, you know, pluses of a U.S. Higher education experience. I mean, at the undergraduate level in particular, because it's so much more pronounced. At the graduate level, it's also there with all of the different groups, research opportunities, discussions, events that you can take part in. I think that at the undergraduate level in particular, it really does provide students with that eye-opening to new experiences and new interests, because maybe you hadn't had the opportunity or exposure to certain things.
Helping them, you know, also I think getting engaged or involved on campus can help with homesickness. I mean, we hear about it a lot. How do you deal with, you know, feelings of homesickness? And so you have to get involved, not just stay in your dorm room. My son struggled quite a bit when he went to university. He played music, and he found some friends, and he played music with them, and that's what helped him get through that first year on campus. You know, just you know, finding a group of friends that you have shared interests with and activities that you can do together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
sure.
to our, I know we have a few more joining on our Facebook Live. You know, hit a little like if you are finding these topics helpful, but we would really like to address any questions you might have or things you're curious about. Again, this is really today conversational, informal, just to be available to give a little bit more insight into the U.S. higher ed.
Seal, you want to talk about our session on Thursday, the TOEFL session?
Yeah, so for people joining us on Zoom and any participants there watching us on Facebook Live. Please, we would like to share with you a very important opportunity, and we hope it will be useful to you. In fact, there will be a TOEFL session just focusing on exercises. How do you train yourself? How do you do, what types of exercises you would have that would help you improve your skills and make you, help you get more prepared to have your TOEFL test. So please join us on this Thursday. So we really encourage you to follow our Facebook page, to look at the posts there, at the events there. We have events on daily basis. In fact, during all this week, as Melissa mentioned, it's International Education Week 2020. There are lots of sessions in Qatar and in some other education USA centers. So we are sharing some, we are managing some of them. So there would be lots of them. There would be a STEM education session. There would be this TOEFL session. There would be a session on English language programs. So there is a diverse type of diverse group, in fact, of sessions that we really encourage you to join. So as you were talking about like life at the university, we hear a lot that lots of families here are so much concerned about the safety of their kids and daughters and their sons. So maybe it's like we can tap into this, like mention something in brief to help people understand that there are offices there, like International Student Affairs, that take care of their students, and some campuses are equipped with all the students, what the students need during their study. So maybe you would like to elaborate on this?
Yeah. So each university will have a variety of different offices and departments to support the students on a variety of different aspects. So you have obviously the administrative side, which all the registration, all of those components, but you also have the emotional, social, and physical well-being of students that are also factored in. And so you will have some campuses have their own campus police. Otherwise, they would have different security services that are available, obviously, for the campus community, as well as the different buildings and facilities that are located. You have health centers located also on campus. The international student offices will generally also provide a very thorough orientation for students upon their arrival to have a full understanding of all of the resources and support available to them, especially since, you know, they're coming from overseas and they need to have, you know, an explanation of how different systems, whether it's, you know, where is the bank located, or how do you open an account, or where do you go in the evening if you're not feeling well, those types of things. So there's all of those levels of support. And in terms specifically with safety and security, there are a variety of programs that, or, you know, campus buddy systems. You know, there are particular times of the year, especially when students are really studying and working late. And during those times, there will be a lot of activity in the library or movement around campus. But outside of those times, you know, students may feel uncomfortable walking back to their residence hall or their apartment on their own. And generally, you would find a variety of programs where students can reach out and then have somebody go with them and escort them if they don't already have a friend that they're studying with. These are things that are available. There's also, you know, sometimes you'll see images of these blue light boxes. So there's emergency phones and notifications along certain paths on campus. So there are a variety of interventions in place to be both preventative, but then also to be able to respond to situations rather quickly.
And I think that, like you mentioned, the orientation programs at the beginning of the year when students arrive on campus, they're really provided with a lot of information about how to be safe, you know, and how to be responsible in a new city, in a new town that has maybe different, you know, a different lifestyle than living in Doha, you have to get used to what are the norms in the place that you're at, and how do you best take care of yourself. So there is a certain level of personal responsibility about the choices that you make and where you go at night, and so it's important to be aware.
Yeah. And there is a question about applying for the visa to the US. Now, when it comes to a student visa application, the first step to that really is having the admission letter. So having an acceptance letter from the university. And when that process begins, the university will also provide what's known as an I-20 document. And that's typically the document for the student visa, which would be the F student visa category. All of those instructions and the processes and how to go about that is available on the U.S. Embassy Qatar website, which has the step-by-step information on what documents you need to bring, how you schedule an appointment, and how you go about that. Now, with the pandemic, a lot of visa services were disrupted globally, and consular sections have been working as best as they can to update that information and keep everybody current on what processes are available. Student visas are being processed, and so if you have an acceptance letter and you're planning to go to the US in the spring semester, work on getting those documents that you need from the university, and then you can check again that consular section of the US Embassy's webpage to make sure you have all of the pieces that you need to complete that application. So for any other type of visa, again, you would have to refer to the US Embassy's consular services section regarding that information.
Thanks, Melissa. I see we have Ala joining us. Ala, would you like to unmute and ask any question? No? Not sure.
Okay. You can also type any question,
chat.
or
Absolutely.
if there's a topic you want us to address.
So while Ala like unmute himself or maybe writes his question in the chat box, so I shared in the comments and on Facebook some information on how students can reserve and book an appointment, one-on-one appointment through Calendly. So please feel free to have your own hour or share it with your contacts. Students who are interested to get to know more about Education USA, they can have this one-on-one consultation hour.
Asil, would you also like to share the link to Big Future? To help for students and for parents
Yes.
who are starting that college or university search. The website, the College Board website, Big Future, has a fantastic search feature where you can narrow down your search by all the different areas that we were just discussing, size of the university, location, of course, the degree or the program that you're interested in studying, and you get some great results. It can help you narrow down your decision or your choice from those 4,000 universities that you're going to be searching. The other important thing, as I still am reflecting as a parent of a child who went off to college, is, when she finally narrowed down her search for colleges, she narrowed down to 5 universities that she applied to. And of course, she didn't get into the one she wanted the most. She got into all the other ones, but not her first choice. And so there was a lot of heartache around that. But, things work out for a reason. And, where she ended up and what the degree she ended up with, she's very happy. So, I want to be sure when students are applying to universities that they do have a selection, a broad selection, that reach school, that sort of middle of the road and the safety school. And, hopefully you'll get your first choice, but if not, there are so many wonderful universities and colleges in the United States that for sure you'll have an excellent experience.
Yeah, well, and I see there's a question about whether a foreigner can apply for a scholarship in the US. And the answer is yes. Many universities do have scholarships available for international students. Those scholarships could be merit-based. They could also be need-based. And so as you're looking at the application requirements and information about the universities that you're looking at, that's definitely something that they would have mentioned and available there. So it is definitely not something that is a problem for international students. Many do have. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, some of them will have, you know, a discounted tuition rate available for international students, where they're not all schools, not all universities or colleges have scholarship funds available. And so they provide creative solutions to be able to provide some kind of financial benefit or incentive. And so that would be if a university indicates that international students can be eligible for in-state tuition, that has a lower rate and can be, you know, considered as a discount in terms of what the cost would be there. So hopefully that answers your question. And then for Nasir al-Din, what I shared for you, you're asking about the possibility to join Weill Cornell Medical College here in Qatar. What I will share with you is they have an open house every Thursday that you can participate in virtually. And so I've shared the link for that, and you would be able to participate in their open house and also talk to their admissions staff so that they can answer questions and help you navigate that process for them. So check out the link that's there, and hopefully you can join them for one of their open house sessions.
And also, I want to encourage students who are interested in a specific university to reach out to the admissions officers, especially in the international admissions office. You know, don't hesitate. They provide their contact information. It's there for a reason. They want to hear from you. They want you there on their campus. So do reach out to them. Let them know what your concerns are, and they will reply for sure.
And Ala, I'm not sure if you have specific questions or if there's a topic you want us to address, but you can unmute yourself to chime in on that or type it in the chat. But to any of our new Facebook Live participants, again, this is an informal chat. We're talking about all things Education USA, US higher education. So if there are questions you have, topics or themes that you would like us to touch upon, you can put that in the chat box and we would be happy to address those as we can.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the whole sessions you provided us last week. They were very informative. Today I entered the class and I introduced to the students the college terms. And I found, especially grade 10 and 11, I found that most of them, they are aware of some of the terms, but other terms are not. So this were very helpful. And I want to ask regarding US, there's, you know, like plenty of universities. So how can I narrow my choices? Or like the students approaching me and he or she's asking, I want to go to the US, but with the scholarships. So regardless of the state, the city, so how can I help him? And how can I know the deadlines, United States deadlines? Like how can I be updated? You know, if I search into Google's, I will really get lost. So this is the thing. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
you're welcome.
Ala, you joined us in the workshop last week.
Yes.
Yes, Ala. Yes, Miss Ala.
Yes,
Welcome. Welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Miss Asil.
Okay.
You know, doing a Google search for a university, unless you know exactly what you're looking for, is going to probably not be very helpful for you.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a new counselor and a new joiner, I want to show my students that I am knowledgeable, but like I want to go to the correct website or the correct search engine. This is the thing for universities, especially.
Yeah. you know, and I think, and then Melissa, you can jump in here, but the Big Future website that we mentioned earlier, and I think it probably is shared in some of the links and the resources that we share with the counselors from last week, and I think we're going to share it in the chat box. The College Board, this is a free tool for you to use as a counselor, for parents and students to use, to help you narrow down that search, because there are many factors, as we've said, that you need to take into consideration, or students need to take into consideration when they're making that decision. Again, I think we talked about the size, the location,
budget,
the field of study, and you know, I think one of the things is maybe I'm thinking out loud here is perhaps doing a session with that tool, another session actually showing that tool live. So stay tuned, Ala. Maybe we will be offering a session using Big Future to model that for our.
it sounds great. Yeah, and now actually I'm navigating while you were talking, and yeah, I found that there are like lots of filters here.
and that the language can be a little confusing, I think, a little bit. Some of the terms you may not be as familiar with.
But one of the things too that I'd like to also highlight with this is, you know, the idea that a scholarship is the only way to afford a U.S. higher education. Again, because of the range that exists, not just in the types of institutions, you also have a range that exists with how much it costs. And so, you know, one of the things that we like to introduce and make sure people are aware of are this concept of the 2+2 model. And that is where a student can begin their first 2 years of study at a community college and then complete the remaining 2 years for their bachelor's degree at a 4-year institution. And, you know, there are a variety of university systems, and I'll point to the California system, for example, where students begin at the community college there, and those students would have likely a better percentage chance to continue on in the 4-year degree programs because of those agreements to transfer over. And if you look at that full 4-year cost, when you factor in those first 2 years at a community college, it's a much more affordable option.
Very affordable, yeah.
So that's also, you know, when we're looking at financing education, it's really making sure that the full picture is understood, that it's not just about scholarship and financial aid. There are many ways to look at financing that by looking at ways to select a place that's much more affordable. And again, the community colleges, there's not always a clear understanding of those and the fact that they are high quality educational institutions as well. It's just the style, it's a smaller institution. They focus more on those general education courses typically, but do have some of those specific major areas. But oftentimes professors that teach at the 4-year institutions are teaching those same courses at the community college. So it really is just a different type of way to approach the bachelor program, for example. So for those, we like to make sure students are aware of that.
You know, I think community colleges where finances are a serious issue are an excellent path for students to consider. Because it really makes it affordable. And also, like you said, in the California system, they can pretty much be assured a place in one of the state universities if they successfully completed their 2-year program.
Yeah. And one of the questions being asked here is about how much can you trust the universities? And is it like if it's approved and a certified university?
Great question.
So it is very great. It's a very great question because you can't just go by any university and their website. They can look very professional and very legitimate. And so if there's ever a question, you can obviously reach out to EducationUSA, but it is something you can check yourself. So the US Department of Education has a website that specifies the accredited institutions. And so you would put the name of the university or college and then check if they have actual accreditation. And that's that's what we use to verify an institution that we might not be as familiar with. And we encourage everyone as well before, if a university is asking you to send a lot of money in advance, the questions that they're asking in terms of things to send and you're not getting things back seems a little bit questionable. I would definitely, be a little bit wary of that and do a little bit more homework to make sure that the institution is a legitimate and accredited institution. We have seen with some of the scams that were taking place recently, not just in Qatar, but in the region, we did notice some institutions that we were being asked about. And so, they were, the student or potential student was being asked to pay large sums of money to get a certificate or a degree for courses that they fully took online, but they weren't really getting a lot of additional administrative information. The way in which letters were written seemed a little bit off. So again, if something is making you question, I would definitely look a little bit more into
And
that.
I just posted that link.
Okay.
Where you can type in the name of the university.
So,
Especially for those online programs. Yeah.
yes, you
Yeah.
want to make sure that they're accredited. And just because an institution's website lists some agency as being its accrediting agency, you want to make sure that that's actually a legitimate accrediting body, because that was
your money.
Yeah, they can make up a name of an accrediting agency and then it looks like, oh, they're accredited by XYZ agency, which isn't recognized by anybody. So again, really, really check the accredited institutions list to make sure. And if you still are in doubt, check in with us, because then we can also kind of help look through that and verify as well.
So we have a dream to join WCMC.
Yes, Aline is seeking, yes, and hopefully, inshallah, yes. I hope you do have an opportunity to connect with the Cornell staff here, the Weill Cornell staff here, learn a lot more about their program and the ways in which you can connect your daughter for that institution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I missed any questions up higher in the chat, but again, for any of our live, any of our Facebook Live attendees, any questions you have, type them in the chat, or any topics you want us to talk about.
Yes, Melissa, there was a
If you
question.
still have questions, definitely let us know.
Yeah. So there was a question saying, is it true that some universities rely on or like make the decision depending on the experience rather than on the certificates or the grades or the manuscripts?
So the admissions process for U.S. higher education is typically a holistic process. So what that means is that you can't just go by one part of your application. It's not just your grades and your transcripts. It is also partly what you've been doing in addition to your academics. And so it's not that your experience alone makes your application strong, it's the whole picture together. Are you a well-rounded student? Have you explored the fields of study that you're interested in through some activities? And if not, that part of it should show in the transcripts for, academic interest. If you say you want to be, a scientist, but all of your math and science scores for your transcript, your high school transcript are low, and you've never done any science related activities, how does that fit for your interest to apply for a science major or something? That's, just one random example to share. But again, it's about the whole picture. So it's all of those pieces together. How do they come together to show that you as a student are interested truly to be at that institution for whatever you're looking to study, and that it's a good fit for both of you? Are you a part of that incoming class? Because again, it's not just the same type of student every year. Admissions offices are looking at, if we're taking in 100 students this year, just an easy number to work with, we want to make sure that within that 100 students, there is good diversity, so that one, the experience for all of the students and for the institution work well. So you don't want to have 100 students that have the exact same background. You need to have some difference in there to challenge one another, to learn from one another, and to make it really an interesting class. So it's not just the experience, it's everything together.
So
Let's see.
work on your application essay.
Yeah. When the essay, you know, it's one of those parts, the application essay, that it can put a lot of pressure and stress on students. Like, how do I stand out? What do I write in this essay? And that's why we always encourage students to really give themselves time, because it's not something you can just sit down, write, and be done with. It's something that has to be part of a process. It's something that has to be part of you reflecting. And in how you start writing it, you might shift it a little bit the more you think about it, or have somebody read it that doesn't necessarily know all the particulars about what you're talking about, and see, does it make sense to someone who doesn't really know all the backstory? Because sometimes we'll write things with a lot of assumptions for the reader. So you want to be able to show who you are as a person. You know, if you...
Well, I like when Dr. Aaron Jones, when he did the presentation last week, and he
Yes.
talked about, you know, look around where you are, your bedroom or your room, what artifacts are around you that represent you. And he held up his football helmet, right? And so what's around you that you could use to inspire you to write about you? Because sometimes when I've spoken with students who are getting ready to write their essays, like, well, they just feel a blank. Like, but there's something that makes you unique, and you just have to identify that. And one way to do that is to look around what artifacts represent you. Here I have a camel. It talks about my life living in the Middle East, for example. And I have my running watch. I like to run, you know, so pulling these things, aspects together of my life, and in being able to tell my story in an engaging way is what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, any of our new joiners on Facebook Live have questions or topics? We've just been chatting about a variety of different things related to U.S. higher ed, scholarships, safety and security, how to make sure universities are accredited. Talked a little bit right now about essay writing. So let us know what you're wanting to know about, or if you have questions, or if you have any examples. Are you currently working on an application? What has your experience been like? Are you finding what you need in terms of support and resources? Is there anything maybe we can help guide you towards? But your experience might help others. So if there's anyone that wants to share, you can definitely type that in the chat box. We can make sure everyone knows. Yeah.
And I've just shared the link to our session. We had a specific session with Rice University that talks about tips that are useful to you when you write your own college application essay. And really, it's interesting to watch it and learn from it. And also, if you're interested in learning more about GRE, about TOEFL, there are also 2 sessions there. The videos are there. If you're interested in engineering programs, there are sessions there on our Facebook page. The recordings are there. performing arts, liberal arts. So there are different types of sessions that are useful to you. You can learn from them. And for those of you who are interested in scholarships, so almost every one of those sessions that we had, we discussed the idea of scholarships and financial aid. So you would find some useful information from different universities. It would provide you with like the basic information and sometimes a little bit detailed. So some new people are joining and watching. Please feel free to chime in, share your questions, write them in the comments. We are ready to help you get these answered.
Yes.
And you get a shout out, Melissa.
Perfect.
Answering those questions, perfectly answered the questions. So yeah. Okay.
Great, happy to help. If we're providing what you're looking for, then we're happy with that as well.
Yeah, and also our participants on Facebook. So I've also shared every session we are having during this International Education Week and the name of the session as well as registration, time and date. Feel free to join us. Feel free to share it with whoever is interested. We are here to help you.
Yep. And for those students who are now in the process of the college application process, we just want to remind you to pay attention to that timeline because the clock is ticking, especially if you're looking at fall 2021. Make sure that you're very mindful of what's due when.
And I'll put in the chat just so that it's there for later, but we will be having a virtual university fair next month. So on Wednesday, December 9th, anybody that's interested in undergraduate studies will have an opportunity to meet with about 75 US universities virtually. And then on Thursday, December 10th, we will have the same number of institutions, but talking about graduate study programs. So if you or anybody you know is looking to explore options for US universities, this is a fantastic opportunity to meet with some of the representatives, find out more about their programs. You can ask them about any test optional policies that they might have for this year. You can ask about scholarship opportunities. And so keep an eye on our announcements on social media. We will be sharing a registration link for those of you that want to participate. It is free to participate, and you just go on, and it's a virtual expo hall. So you enter this virtual building and kind of scan through the universities that are there. You can visit them at their booths. They'll have information available, but they'll also be able to chat with you either through just chat or video chat as well. So definitely use that opportunity to learn more about any institutions you might be thinking about, and try checking in with some you've never heard of. I know, there are the big names in the usual states that a lot of students are familiar with, but explore a few of those that you've never heard of. There are fantastic academic programs and opportunities all over. And so it's a good chance to learn about a new place that you hadn't heard about.
If we don't have any more questions today, we can wrap up our session. And we're going to try to do this again, perhaps next month. So we hope you'll join us and come ready with your questions.
Yes, thank you for all who joined. We look forward to connecting with you again at our other sessions later this week or again down the line. We welcome any and all opportunities to help you along your journey.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for everyone who joined us on Zoom, through Facebook. And please join us for our next sessions. And you're always welcome to ask your questions and reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.